Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Media Boat Podcast. My name is Matt, and it's just me this week. Mike is on assignment with family. In the meantime, I've got the show for you today. If you are new to the Media Boat Podcast, here's what to expect. We have news and probably not that many thoughts this week because it's just me about movies, television, music, and video games, not necessarily in that order. Today is episode 497. We inch ever so closer to the big episode 500. And today is July 29th, 2025. Almost in August. It's almost the dog days of summer. I know I've got a dog in me. That dog in me wants to hear about the Billboard Hot 100. And that's what we're going to start with the music section. The hottest songs in the land right now. Your number one song this week is Still Ordinary by Alex Warren. But moving up to number two this week is none other than Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters by the fake band Huntrix, but featuring the voice actors of those characters. Coming in at number three, Daisies by Justin Bieber. Number four, What I Want by Morgan Wallen, featuring Tate McRae. And rounding out your top five, Just in Case by Morgan Wallen. Moving on to your Billboard 200, which is your albums chart. Your number one album this week is a surprise drop from Tyler, the Creator, Don't Tap the Glass. Coming in at number two is I'm the Problem, Yes You Are by Morgan Wallen. Number three, though, K-pop Demon Hunter soundtrack, returning in the top five this week. Number four, Jack Boys 2 by Jack Boys and Travis Scott, moving down one, or actually moving down from number one last week. And last but definitely least, well, I haven't listened to it, I don't know, it might be okay. You'll Be Alright Kid by Alex Warren, your Hot 100 leader for the last few weeks. Congratulations all, except for you-know-who. In case you didn't like those, there are new releases this week, just a couple. We have The Star of the Queen of Life by Debbie Friday, and Bite Me by Jimmy Award winner Renee Rapp. That's a joke for like 5 people. Moving on from your Billboard charts, let's talk about some music news, shall we? And here's someone that's no stranger to the Billboard charts. Well, maybe not the Hot 100 quite yet, but maybe after this. Hayley Williams. Yes, Paramore lead singer Hayley Williams shocked people this week by surprise releasing 17 new solo songs exclusively on her website. Fans were given an access code as part of the new drop from Williams' Good Dye Young hair dye company. A little cross-promotion of her brands going on. Upon entry, users entered a web page featuring the new tracks, including True Believer, Marazapine, Hard, Negative Self-Talk, True Believer, Discovery Channel, which, yes, you guessed it, samples that song, and Zizou. You know, like Steve. An additional miscellaneous folder on the website leads to a performance video that appears to have been taken in Phoenix back in 2017, plus an image of a lyric book and a t-shirt that reads, Hayley Williams is my favorite band. You know what, Hayley Williams is my favorite band too. How did you know? It's an interesting move, and I'm happy to report that I listened to said songs. I will say, if you try to Google this and try to listen to it, you will be faced with entering a code. A special code was distributed to Good Dye Young subscribers to like their email newsletter. So if you don't have one, let's just say that your good friend Reddit might help you out there. That's what worked out for me. I'm not even a Reddit person, but they're clutch every once in a while. And this was one of those times. It's really good, folks. These 17 songs are pretty spectacular. I honestly think that this is probably the best solo album, even though this is not presented in an album form, that she's done so far. I liked it better than the other two. It's real good. I suggest checking it out. So yeah, go for it. I guess that's kind of a thought too. So combo story this week. I guess that'll do it for music though, because I've got nothing else to say about that. So let's move on to video games. We start video games with the new releases for the week. First up, Cook Serve Forever. Yes, the people who brought you Cook Serve Delicious are back. This is coming out on everything: PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and your Switch. We also have Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. That's on PC, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, and Switch as well. Grounded 2, yes, the sequel to Grounded. That's on PC and Xbox Series X this week. I would assume that this will eventually go to other platforms. Looking at you, rumored Nintendo Direct, as I whack the mic. And lastly, Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, is finally out. This is on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Switch. Those who are interested in cozy games have been tracking this one for a while. This is like a farming cozy game sim vibe, but with Lord of the Rings characters. You're in the Shire. You're hanging out with hobbits. A certain audience will absolutely fall in love with this thing, so I'm glad it exists. All right, let's move on to our big game story this week, and unfortunately, it is not as fun as living in the Shire with some hobbits. In fact, it is the opposite of wholesome and cozy. We have a problem with censors in the video game industry over the last couple of weeks. It's hit our biggest platforms, including Steam, and now, this past week, itch.io. Yes, indie digital game store itch.io has de-indexed its entire not-safe-for-work games library from its store. This comes as payment providers, your Visas and your MasterCards and such, have begun scrutinizing not-safe-for-work content on platforms such as Steam, as I mentioned. While the extent of the changes to the platform isn't currently known, a statement confirms that itch.io is working rapidly to change the way it platforms explicit content. This comes less than a week after Steam introduced a new set of guidelines banning previously permitted explicit content from its platform. So in case you haven't been following this story, here's kind of a brief recap. The issue began earlier this year when a game called No Mercy, which promised players they could, quote, become every woman's worst nightmare, end quote, and featured content including sexual violence and incest, fun times over here, was briefly published on Steam and itch.io. The game was widely condemned, with many calling for its removal on those platforms. Itch.io banned the title, however, it remained on Steam. Now, itch.io has stated that due to pressure from a group called Collective Shout, which issued an open letter to payment processors demanding that they cease supporting online platforms that host explicit games, they have removed all adult games from their search and browse features while determining the next steps. Okay, so a few things have happened since this story was written. People have basically found there's other games that are really popular and award-winning that have been affected by this change. Itch.io themselves have issued a couple statements, basically defending their move as, well, we were kind of forced, our hand was forced. Don't get mad at itch, people. Be mad at the payment processors. And yeah, that's the other half of the thing. In a showing of solidarity, payment processors, customer services, wow, I can't talk right now. Plurals. They're hard, folks. Have been bombarded with calls from people who are bunching up, joining together online to, just overload the phone lines with people talking about how this is a bad policy. And they're right. Well, stuff like No Mercy, probably shouldn't have a platform. That's probably true. Anything that's really that side of heinous, you probably shouldn't platform. Just like how you shouldn't platform people who are talking about that kind of thing on other sources of media. Itch.io and Steam are private companies. They have a ability and right to choose who they serve, who they provide access to sell their goods. However, the flip side of this is kind of scary for the industry as a whole. Sure, Steam has been overloaded with hentai games and games where you're just slapping boobs around, and you know what? They're not for everybody, and people could argue how much worth and how much artistry are involved in that. But ultimately, if we're really believe in a free market and a free platform for this stuff, we should really open the floodgates and have whatever you want. So that's where the balancing act needs to happen. The worst of the worst sometimes slips through the cracks because we have a good faith, open gate policy. And the reason why we have that is because these people who want to censor this stuff are not just looking for the no mercies. They're looking to censor possibly any content that mentions just stuff they don't like. Like we've seen this in society, in American society at large this year. People cracking down on trans representation, people cracking down on other LGBTQ representation. Even people of color are being marginalized in a way we haven't seen in a very long time. This is what they're going for. It's the old, slippery slope, that could happen. Obviously, slippery slope is kind of a bad argument to make typically, and there's no, guarantees that will happen. But if history has proven anything, it is that when these people start saying what can and can't be sold, they're coming after everybody they don't like. There were only 1,000 names on this collective shout petition, I guess, to get this pressure to happen. 1,000 names. There are hundreds of times of games than that on these platforms, with easily way magnitudes more creators that believe in what they've made. It is such a minuscule, comparatively such a minuscule number of people that complained, and they're getting their way. They've strong-armed these giant corporations to do their bidding. And it's just not how any of this should work. I know we already talked about a little bit of this, but I just wanted to give you kind of an update. It's real rough, but yeah. And we, in fact, wait, did we cover this last week? Uh-oh. I hope I didn't do a repeat story. Hold on, folks. I'm going to quickly see if we did this last week. I don't think so. But I can't be sure. Oh, that's right. Never mind. We're good. We talked about the Pokemon Direct last week. Anyways, well, that's all I have to really say about that. Just hey, call those credit card processors if you have some time. Make sure they feel that pressure and continuous pressure so they realize that this is no way to do business. This is keeping people from making the things they want to make. And that sucks. Less of that, please. All right. Let's move on. As for video game thoughts, I played a little bit more Donkey Kong Bonanza. That game remains incredible, but I don't really have anything more to say about it until I wrap it up, so stay tuned. Let's move on to the second half of the show with television, and we always start television with the Sports Corner. I'm not Mike, so bear with me as I try to talk about the sports this week. But hey, we're opening with a showstopper by talking about the AUSL. As I mentioned last week, that the championship game series, I should say, was last weekend, and it happened. I mean, sure, weather threatened to stop it multiple times in both games, but ultimately the games did happen. Your Talons beat the Bandits to claim the inaugural AUSL championship game. It was pretty cool to watch those. I watched a lot of it, and just the pitching. It was a pitching duel through most of Game 2, and it was just so much fun to watch them go back and forth. The Bandits, even though they had spectacular offense during the main season, just couldn't really get something going against the Talons' pitching, and ultimately defense and pitching won out. But you did have some spectacular plays. I really enjoyed those games, and I'm looking forward to the next season already. Though, you don't have to wait, because the All-Star Cup for the AUSL, which will involve a lot of the players from those four teams, will start in just a week here on August 2nd. So, or a little less than a week. So yeah, enjoy. More softball action coming to you soon. Meanwhile, in baseball, the MLB, the trade deadline is this week, Thursday, just a couple of days away from this recording. Next week, we'll probably report some of the biggest barn burners of some trades that are surely to happen. I'm ready for some surprises, so stay tuned to that. You also had Hall of Fame weekend this past weekend for the MLB. So those inductees that we talked about before, Dick Allen, Dave Parker, CC Sabathia, Ichiro Suzuki, and Billy Wagner were inducted and got their speeches. Ichiro's was, as you would imagine, fantastic. Meanwhile, in the current game, current players also wowed crowds this week. A's rookie Nick Kurtz went 6-6 with 4 home runs, 19 total. TB. I'm not sure what he means by that. TB. I don't know. 6 runs. So there you go. Good job, Nick Kurtz. All right, other sports happened. The NFL had its Hall of Fame game. It is the first kind of blast of preseason football that we're getting. Chargers and the Lions, or having, I should say. The Chargers and the Lions will face each other in that game on Thursday. So stay tuned for that as well. All right, that's all we have here for sports, so I'm going to move on. I botched enough of that, so surely I can't be trusted with sports anyway, so I'm glad he cut it off there. Let's talk about television news. We have a little update about Skydance. As you know, that they are trying to merge with Paramount, and we've been talking a lot about it over the last year. Well, the sale passed the FCC's check on Thursday, the day after the latest South Park season premiered on Comedy Central. CBS has maintained that the recent $16 million settlement of the 60 Minutes lawsuit and the ending of The Late Show with Stephen Colbert was, quote, purely a financial decision, end quote. To meet the FCC's approval, Skydance said it would ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are dead at Paramount. Keep in mind, this is the current FCC under the current administration. And that DEI would not return to the newly merged company. Skydance has told the FCC that once its acquisition of Paramount Global is complete, it will initiate a, quote, comprehensive review of CBS to ensure that the network is operating in the public interest, and that it will hire an ombudsman that will report directly to the president of CBS News and, quote, who will receive and evaluate any complaints of bias or other concerns at the news division. The ombudsman role will be guaranteed for at least 2 years, with CBS News leadership committing to, quote, carefully review any complaints. Through all of this, Paramount has undertaken several rounds of layoffs through its various outlets, and there are certain to be more job cuts coming when Skydance officially takes control of the company, expected within the next few weeks. The Skydance team, working with consulting firm Bain & Company, sound familiar, had identified at least $2 billion in potential annualized cost savings after the merger. Earlier this month, largely through layoffs and restructuring, Paramount slashed $500 million in annual costs, or cut 15% of its U.S. headcount, affecting about 2,000 employees through cutbacks last summer and fall. Last month, the company cut another 3.5% of its domestic staff, representing several hundred more pink slips. This is the thing about corporate mergers, and this is why I really hesitate to be positive or put a positive spin on them, is because this stuff is always nefarious to the actual workers as a result. A lot of people are getting it laid off, and that's not even considering the social implications of having one of the major networks have basically a guy who's going to decide what news is news and not. That's not how it should be run. CBS News is a very important legacy thing that has brought us, so much great reporting over the last, handful of decades since television's inception. To have one dude who just gets to decide, people are complaining that this is too biased, so we're not going to run the story. What are we talking about here? Or if they do run the story, maybe not continue running. or like not follow up on it, or issue a correction, worst case scenario. There's a lot of really bad stuff that could come out of this kind of thing. This is like state-driven media to a certain extent. This is like bowing to an administration that wants you to report what they believe is newsworthy and what their perspective is. It's just disgraceful when you think about journalism as a practice and how that's not supposed to be the case. And talk about the perspectives we're going to lose with DEI initiatives gone. In such a big company like this, that's awful. I'm glad the video game companies I care about got out when they did, out of CBS's corporate umbrella, because, whoo boy, that's not fun. Like, to have to deal with this across the board. Where are you going to hear these marginalized voices? You're just not. CBS is going to not be the place where you can find this fair reporting anymore, and that's really disappointing to hear from a historical standpoint. So yeah, it's rough. I don't love any part of this. It's a shit show. So that's unfortunate. Let's move on. Mike said he finished watching Building the Band on Netflix, but he's not here to talk about it, so wait till next week for that. We do have some cancellations and renewals to get to. First up, Resident Alien has been canceled after 4 seasons on USA. I mean, it lasted longer than I thought it would, jumped a couple of networks, so surprised it got 4. E! Yes, E's news program somehow has been canceled after 32 seasons. I would imagine that was probably added really early to the E slate. So to see something like a staple of their program just go, it's got to feel weird. Next up, The Legend of Vox Machina. Vox Machina? Will have its finale after its 5th season. That's on Prime Video. And The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, one of the many spin-offs from the Walking Dead series, will end after its 4th season on AMC. Next up, we got some renewals. The Voice will get a 29th season, and coaches Kelly Clarkson, John Legend, and Adam Levine will return. Adam Levine, sorry, I read that too fast. Wednesday on Netflix will get a 3rd season. Stick on Apple TV Plus, which we are currently watching, will get a 2nd season. Days of Our Lives, the long-running soap opera, will still live thanks to Peacock for a 63rd season. You heard me right. The Gilded Age will return to HBO for a 4th season, and Untamed will get a 2nd season on Netflix. All right, some quick deaths to talk about this week. We have Ryne Sandberg, age 65, Hall of Fame baseball player, played for the Chicago Cubs, and even managed the Phillies for a hot second. Definitely a legend of the baseball world. And then less legendary, we have to talk about this. Hulk Hogan died at age 71. Obviously, Hall of Fame World Wrestling Federation / entertainment wrestler. Also from WCW once upon a time. He acted in some movies as well. He had a reality TV show or two. Also kind of a scumbag, also kind of a bad guy, also kind of a racist. Also took down legitimate journalism websites because he just didn't like how they treated him. Kind of a mess of a human being, and left kind of a legacy of, booze, mostly, if you watched a lot of wrestling programming in the last year. Not a great legacy to leave behind. I guess people who were kids in the 80s have some positive memories about him, but we don't really need to talk about that. Let's remember the man as he was, not the character he played, and yeah, he seemed kind of bad. Kind of awful. So, sayonara, brother. All right, let's move on to the movie section, our last section of the show today, and we always start the movies with the weekend box office numbers. We had a bet on this one, folks, and I lost again. Your number one movie was The Fantastic Four: First Steps, which debuted to $117 million, coming under that Superman number of 125, which we bet on last week. Mike won this one with a under 125 bet, leaving me with the over. So, this happens. It's okay. I'm fine. I'll be fine. Your number 2 movie is Superman with $24 million this week. That's at $289 domestic. Your number 3 movie is Jurassic World Rebirth with $13 million. That's $301 domestic. Number 4, F1 the movie, $6.3 million. That's at $165 million. And number 5, Smurfs with $5.4 million. Still hanging out. $22 million total domestic. Yeah, that's it. 22. Ouch. All right, upcoming this week, we have a couple of movies, some alternative programming to fulfill both parents and the kids' interests. You have the remake of The Naked Gun, which I'm interested in seeing how that works out, as well as The Bad Guys 2, the sequel to The Bad Guys, the CG film from DreamWorks. Those are your big releases this week. Mike's not here to bet, but I don't think either of those are your number 1 movie. I think Fantastic Four is your number 1 again. All right, let's talk about some movie news. And the news this week brings us to the world of Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy, who stars in the upcoming action comedy The Pickup with Pete Davidson and Keke Palmer, revealed what's next on his docket of upcoming projects. He said, quote, "I'm getting ready to do a George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic movie, presumably. I've already started Shrek 5, he'll be Donkey, and I'm going to be Inspector Clouseau in the next Pink Panther." Surprise. When asked if he will be French in the film, he responded, "Well, he has to be French, but he could also be Haitian. I will tell you, he's black. He's black for sure." Still Eddie Murphy. Peter Sellers, of course, originated the role in 1963 before Steve Martin took his shot in the 2006 reboot and its sequel. Murphy, who has been linked to Inspector Clouseau for years in rumors, also has his eyes on another famous 1960s film, previously saying he's interested in remaking the 1963 comedy It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. Whether that actually happens, who knows? Whether this Pink Panther movie ever even happens, also, who knows? All right, that's your movie story this week. Mike says he saw Fantastic Four, First Steps, and Happy Gilmore 2. He is not here to talk about either of those movies, so those will also be punted to next week. But that means that we can wrap this show up, folks. I got a lot of stuff wrong. I talked over myself several times, and I don't know what TB is. I feel like a bad baseball fan. I have no idea what he means by TB. What? 19 TBs. TB? TB. Maybe if I Google this? TB. I can't find this. TB. Oh, it is total base. I was right. I doubted myself. I've never seen it shortened to TB. It's total basis. Anyways. All right. Thank you for listening to me drivel on. We'll be back with a real Media Boat podcast next week. Thank you, everybody. If you want to find us in video form, go to YouTube, search Media Boat Podcast there. If you want to find us in audio form, go to a podcast service of your choice and search Media Boat Podcast. If you want to find us on the internet, MediaBoatPodcast.com is the website. And we're on Blue Sky if you search Media Boat Podcast. Mike can also be found streaming every once in a while on twitch.tv/MediaBoat. And last but definitely not least, if you have questions, want to make fun of me for this awful episode, did my best, folks. You can email us at mediaboatpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you guys next week. Both Mike and I will be back, hopefully, I think. In the meantime, thanks for watching.